That's great. That's great.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to episode 21 of the Tell Me Something Great podcast. I am your host, Justin Yates. We're almost coming to a close here with the podcast for season 1, but we got a lot to talk about today. So I'm happy, very, very happy to be touching base with you guys. This is an exciting episode today because today is the reveal episode. Today we're going to talk about everything that I'm doing with this music, short of telling you guys every single merchandising thing I'm doing. But we're going to get to that in a little bit. I want to do a little bit of recap from this week and just kind of touch base with you guys, and then we'll get into it. This whole week I have been, well, kind of dead. That's why this podcast this week is late. I'm not one to miss deadlines, but there was nothing I could do. So let's rewind. Wednesday of last week, I got my booster shot. I've gotten Moderna for every shot so far. And this booster shot put me on my ass so bad that there were a couple days that I just slept almost all day. My head has been really foggy. I'm getting like migraine headaches. I've just been feeling really odd. Even today, I don't feel 100%. I feel better today. That's why I'm tackling the podcast, but I couldn't do anything. Everything work-related has been pushed back, which stinks, but I'm staying positive and motivated. I got the booster shot, felt sick for quite a few days, which stunk. So every time you get a shot, they always tell you don't tense up. Well, I can assure you, I wasn't tense while I was getting this booster shot, but it feels like I was tense. I'm getting the same symptoms that a lot of people are getting, where it's like soreness and tightness in the arm that you got the booster shot in. That's actually started to go away, but believe it or not, once I got that shot, I could feel it coursing through me. I could feel it going all throughout my arm, all the way down to my fingertips, but then also traveling in the other direction. And I can feel it coursing through my shoulders, through my neck, and almost into my other arm, like into my delt, my shoulder area. And it's really strange because my neck is really tight. And the muscles, my traps, are really tight. And I don't know if my whole body clenched up and I just wasn't aware of it. I'm pretty positive it wasn't. Or if my body's just having some weird reaction. I by no means am trying to start some political debate or some crazy debate about the positives or negatives of taking a vaccine. I don't have the patience, the time, and I think if you're listening to this, you shouldn't be doing the same either. You shouldn't be wasting your time in ridiculous arguments. But I am curious to ask the question, if you've gotten any of the vaccine or the booster shot, I'm curious what your symptoms have been. For those that don't know, I very much checked out of society a long time ago. I very much live in my own world. I'm an outlaw in many different ways. And my research on people's experiences with this vaccine is very small, and I'm not informed in the slightest. And I'm very well aware I could go on Google and do a bunch of different searches and try to get people's feedback, but I would rather hear your feedback, if that makes sense. I'd like to know your personal experience, if you're willing to share it. So let me know. But in any case, yeah, the symptoms from the shot have been really strange. From congestion and a runny nose to feeling like I have a fever to muscle tightness to being really mentally fatigued to having a crazy mental fog. It's just really all over the place. If you guys listen to the last solo podcast, you'll know that phase 1 of the merchandising is done and I received it. And I am shocked because there's a lot of mistakes and a lot of things that need to be taken care of. And luckily, it seems like that's going to be taken care of by the gentleman who's helping me. So I'm happy that despite receiving a package that I was a little surprised about, it seems like everything's going to keep moving forward. So that was a bit of a hiccup this week as well, too. My head was just kind of all over the place that I just couldn't really handle everything that's going on. I needed a couple extra days, guys. Also, probably the biggest thing is that I hate pharmacies. I hate the medical field. It's so annoying. People never do their jobs. They tell you one thing and do something else. And long story short, I was told like a week and a half ago that I had antidepressants being shipped to me and I've been out of medication. Again, for those that have been listening to the podcast, know that I decided to start taking medication almost 2 years ago because I was in desperate need of some additional assistance due to some of the problems that I've been having. And long story short, my prescription for one of them ran out about a week ago, like 2 days before that booster shot. I was told that they were, shipping me medication. I was told that, and they never did. I ended up having to call them and jump through a whole bunch of hoops, but I ended up getting everything sent to me. And my head feels a little bit more positive today, believe it or not. I actually think that the medication that I'm taking does do a lot of help. I have a chemical imbalance, so it's sometimes difficult when I'm not, what's the word I'm looking for? Like living with the assistance of something. But regardless, being off of SSRIs for a few days, having this booster shot reaction, having kind of a shock with the merchandise and just a few other things that got thrown my way. This whole week has been pretty chaotic, so I needed a few days to kind of get my head together. And I'm feeling pretty good. Like I said, I still feel the effects of the shot lingering, but I'm feeling better. So that's a really good thing. So one of the biggest milestones this week is that the Dexter's laboratory collection is completely done. I had to break it up into a couple different packages, and I'm really upset to hear that one of the packages is in limbo due to USPS being USPS. The first package made it. The second package is going to be there in 2 days, and the other package is just in limbo, but we've taken care of everything, and the deal is done. And I'm pretty stoked about that because all of those proceeds went directly to Dustin. So I've now made the second deposit at the studio, and I'm just still fundraising and selling shirts and doing whatever I can. And fundraising is going well. The Dexter collection definitely helped, so I'm really, really happy to just get that taken care of and moved along. It's the holiday season, guys. It's December 14th today. Have you done all your holiday shopping so far this year? I've been away from my brother and sister and my nieces and nephew for a while now due to location, finances, COVID, and a few other things. I haven't seen them in person in a while, and it's starting to really affect me. And it stinks that I'm not there with them, but I made sure to get all their gifts and send them some fun stuff, as I try to do every year. I really love those guys. I think I've purchased all the gifts that I can for my family. I've got a few more that I need to take care of this week. I try to get a lot of my shopping done early. Are you guys people who do that, or do you leave shopping until the last possible second? This week has really been nothing but sleeping, resting, trying to do sales here or there on the collection page, which I've been able to sell some stuff. I actually have like 20 vintage shirts for sale, so if you guys are into vintage stuff or retro nerd stuff, check out the link in the description. But I've been doing a lot of work out of the office this week, trying to organize, condense, and just get some more for sale items together. It's been difficult to do anything. It feels like I have the mental power and the want to work on the 10,000 jobs that are sitting in front of me. But it seems like every time I tried to start a job this week, my head would just get super foggy and I would have to sit down for a while and just rest. I tried to deal with that as much as possible, but after about 2 or 3 days, I just had to tap out. day 3 after the booster shot, I spent a good amount of time just relaxing. I watched a few different movies and just really tried to rest as much as I can. And it did help a lot. I'm going to be doing this podcast in chunks today for the same reason. I got to go to the doctor's office and do a bunch of running around. You got to make sure to send me an email for our last solo podcast. That is the Tell Me Something Great podcast at gmail.com. How did you guys like the Darren Miller interview? I really tried my best not to freak out, since Darren Miller is the front man of one of my favorite bands from my childhood. I'm glad that you guys have enjoyed the interview, and you enjoyed the questions, and just enjoyed touching base with Darren. I'm beyond blessed that he was willing to do the podcast and willing to sit down and really indulge in a bunch of really cool things. If you guys watch the interview, or even look through if you look through the description of the video, you'll see that a lot of the questions that I threw at him were not only from the internet, but a lot of pending questions that fans have had. And even outside of those questions, Darren threw out some really cool gems that personally I've never heard him talk about in any other video. If you guys do get a chance, please check out that interview. If you're a fan of 96 Bitter Beings or CKY or any of the bands that Darren has been in, I think you'll really like the interview, because we kind of touch base on a lot of these different bands, as well as a lot of different topics that have to do with Darren Miller, CKY, etc., etc. Remember that I'm not too sure what's going to happen with this podcast. I put everything on YouTube so that I could kind of track the numbers a little bit better, and I don't expect the numbers to be jaw-dropping by any means. I'd like to gauge how the show does in the next coming months, and if interest is still there, I'll definitely do a season 2, but I'd like to hear from you guys mainly about what you'd want to hear in a season 2. I'll probably do a season 2, but it all really depends on how these things go. And so far, the feedback has been actually surprisingly really great. I'm glad you guys have been liking the solo podcasts. I'm glad you guys have been, being a part of the show, sending in questions and topics and suggestions. I'm really glad that you enjoy the interviews as much as I have. I took a lot of time to try to track down people that I thought would be a really good fit for the show and would have a lot of good insights to throw at some of the creative people who are listening and some of the people who aren't creative who are listening. As you can see, the guests have quite a background themselves, and hopefully you could see that I tried to touch down on a bunch of different topics so that the interviews could be not only interested for the super fans of the person I'm interviewing, but also so that it has a little bit of information about the person for maybe somebody who doesn't know anything about them, and also maybe some cool gems to get them to look even deeper. So my workout schedule has been going really well until I got this booster shot. I feel like a slug again, but every day I'm feeling better. So I'm going to get back into that routine pretty much as soon as possible. What else happened this week? I got my hair cut. I haven't rehearsed at all because I've been tired. I've been playing some guitar here or there, been doing a little bit of warm-ups here or there, but I have not been rehearsing, which is not good because I need to really get into the zone, be as prepared as possible for the studio. That's really the name of the game, which I should mention next week's guest is our last interview, and it will be with Dustin Bennett, the guy that I'm recording with. And if you guys don't know who Dustin is, it's going to be a really cool interview. Dustin is a record producer. He's a musician. He's just an all-around great guy, and he brings an interesting perspective to the conversation. He runs an awesome business, and he's just a super talented dude, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Hopefully you'll understand why I'm making the decisions I'm doing to go back to Illinois to work with Dustin. We have a great rapport. I think very highly of the guy, and his work speaks for itself. I really think you guys are going to like what we'll be doing. As most people know, I'm a smoker. This week I have bought an electronic cigarette again. And I think I'm going to try that route because I need to continuously be working on my voice. And due to stress and a lot of other things, I've been smoking cigarettes a lot. And I need to stop doing that for many reasons. And as weird as it is, my health isn't enough to make me stop. But me wanting to give the best vocal performance I can does make me think about stopping. How crazy is that, right? That's how much I value myself. I have issues, friends. But the point being is that music has helped me in many ways, and this is an example of how it gives me structure, gives me purpose, gives me goals, gives me something to work towards. Sometimes I have a lot of trouble finding that within myself, so I lean into it, and I've done that for a few years now. And it's difficult at times, but it's proven to pay off. And, this week, I bought, like I said, an e-cigarette, and I got to start tackling that problem because my health is important, and that should be the first thing. But I also have a big project coming up where I'm going to be using my voice for 2 of the 3 songs. And the songs are pretty dense vocally. So I really need to get my voice in the best shape that it can be in. I don't want to go to the doctor because they're probably going to tell me that I'm dying soon. All right, I think I'm going to take my first break right now. It'll be a little bit for me, but it's only going to be a few seconds for you guys, so hang tight really quick. I'm getting this massive migraine behind my eye, and my head is just throbbing. So I'm going to grab a cup of coffee. Depending on what time it is, I might go to the doctor and then come back. I'm not sure. But in any case, I will talk to you guys in just a second. Bye! All right, I'm back. I just had to run around like crazy and make like 5 doctor's appointments, and I hate being human sometimes. Today's the reveal episode, my friends, and I have been like a ball of excitement just waiting to tell you guys everything that I'm working on, and there's no more waiting, so let's get right into it. I think the best way to describe to you guys what I'm working on is to go back to like the genesis of it. So in previous episodes, I spoke about the 3 songs that I'm recording. I talked about a little bit about where the songs came from, their names, and a few other things. So if you haven't listened to previous episodes, definitely check them out. So let's start things off when I moved here to California, which was a few years ago now. When I moved here, I still had a lot of work to do with Friend, and I did a lot of that over the computer. I also had to switch studios halfway in between that recording process, so that doing all that remotely was pretty crazy. But once I finished that up, I just put my head to the grindstone and I tried my damnedest to get back to performing mode. And I did. I was able to play a bunch of gigs around Sacramento, and I was able to tell people about the new CD and play a few shows and get out there. And I was able to book a few gigs, and it was cool. The ball started rolling. And then I had a few complications with my body that kind of sidelined me. And then COVID happened, and it hit me in a weird way because I didn't know what I was going to do, and I didn't know where I fit in to this situation that we're all in. I don't know how I fit into this equation. And I worked so hard to get back to playing music, and then was told that I can't do that. It was a bit shocking, to say the least. It's like I worked so hard again for something, and I just had it taken away again. And that's okay. I understand that there's bigger problems going on, so I understand my little trials and tribulations are minuscule in the scheme of it all. But this was a big hit because I took a hit from not performing, and I needed to go back to work, and now I couldn't work. I was ready to work, and I couldn't work. So I was kind of confused, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And since I knew I was stuck inside, I had the brilliant idea of, okay, you know what? I'm going to work on something new. It's time to work on something new. I have the time to work on something new. Let's do it. But with the complications of my back, the complications of my arm, the complications of the world, a whole bunch of things going on, it made me really think about why I was doing this and what would be the next thing I should do and how I could do it. And I had the bright idea that I was going to work on a 3-song EP. Is that what we want to call it? An EP? A 3-song release? I don't know what we're calling it, but I wrapped my head around, okay, I'm going to release 3 songs. And since I don't know if I can go out and perform them, and at that point, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to perform anymore. I because of my age and a few different things, I have to think about other ways to do this, you know? So as I'm wrapping my head around these 3 songs, I got the idea in my head that it's probably the right time to start working on full band material for this, Justin Yates music that I've been doing for the past couple of years. When I first wrapped my head around the 3 songs, I thought, okay, let's work on 3 songs and let's just have fun. I had one idea of a song, which was the instrumental Tip Your Bartender, and I had pretty much all the ideas for Games Up, but the song wasn't complete at that time. I kind of loosely knew what I wanted to do with the 3rd song, but it wasn't even written at that time. But I knew that I wanted to have fun with the songs, and I didn't want the limitations of performing live to stifle them. So I thought, now is the perfect time for me to do something that I should be doing, which is writing full band material for these songs. And I thought this was the perfect opportunity. I could have fun with it. The expectations that I have could be a little bit different because I knew that the songs wouldn't be performed live. It would be a fun challenge to write maybe acoustic versions of the song, but then also flesh out the ideas to make full band arrangements. I have friends that are musicians, have been playing music for 20 plus years, so the idea of possibly working with some other people got me excited, and just all of this kind of came together, and I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. So the idea of wanting to do a 3-song release was there, but then the idea of wanting to do the full band idea came into the picture. And that's where things became really exciting, because while I was writing some of the parts, I was able to explore into some different territories that I wasn't able to explore in before because of the limitations of being a one-man show. Also, the limitations of my skill set. There's certain things I need to do, I can't do, and I must do while I'm playing live to be able to kind of do what I'm doing. With taking that bit out of the equation and just being able to write freely, it was a very attractive idea. But here's where the first hurdle came into play. As I mentioned previously, all these songs are done. I've written all the parts here, but that just didn't just happen. I had a lot of help doing that. When I first started this, I started tinkering around with the potential instruments that I thought would sound good with these songs. And I'm still using those same instruments and plan to use them in the studio, which would be drums, keyboard, electric guitar, not lead guitar like solos, but more electric guitar based stuff, and bass guitar. And I've had experience with all of these instruments, but I'm not a drummer. I'm a guitar player, and I barely can play the guitar. So writing drum parts and wanting to do intricate drum work, or writing bass and wanting to play intricate bass lines, it can be challenging because I haven't put years into that. So as I was sitting here kind of etching away at the songs, I reached out to a few people to help to kind of bring some ideas into the mixing pot. I started off with the guitar and drums first, and I wrote a bunch of different drum ideas. I have some template ideas and things like that. I reached out to my brother first, and I gave him a scratch track of the guitar, and I said, hey, just make me a simple drum track. And he did. The drums were very basic, but it was definitely in a direction that I didn't want to go. So the first person I asked for help actually helped me kind of like gravitate towards the ideas that I was hearing in my head and flesh out some of those ideas that might not be good, which was really helpful, believe it or not. And then from there, the drum ideas started to kind of become a little bit more concrete, and I kept working on the files and fine-tuning fills and just trying to get everything to sit as well as it can. Over here, I'm using sampled drums. I'm using fake drums for basically everything. So I'm programming all the drums. And, weeks went by and I'm working on these and I'm getting closer and closer, but I can tell by listening to it that these ideas are okay, but they're not the right ideas. I'm not a drummer. I needed to bring in a drummer who can bring in just a few different ideas for fills, maybe even bad ideas just to flesh them out, really just bring in whatever. And this is where I contacted my buddy Kyle Urbanic. Kyle Urbanic is a drummer from Lake County who's played in a number of different bands over the years, and he doesn't play in a band anymore. He actually works a lot, and he has 2 kids, but he definitely does still play drums from time to time. I've performed live with Kyle. I've jammed with him a ton of times. The guy's got tons of ideas, and he's a really good drummer. And I threw him the idea of all this, and I'm like, listen, I don't know what's going to happen with the drums. They're probably going to change. The plan is to program them all, but I need to bring in some more ideas. I need to work with somebody who can bring in a different perspective. And as always, Kyle has been a great friend and a very creative friend, and he actually supplied me with a ton of ideas. And what was really cool, and this is a testament to Kyle's playing, is some of the ideas weren't vastly different from the drum template ideas I was doing, which was really gratifying to me. You know what I mean? Like, I spend a lot of time with guitar and vocals. I don't spend a lot of time with some of these other instruments. So I have to assume that the ideas I'm coming up with aren't going to be the final ideas. They need some work. And it was good to see that at least I was in the ballpark of what would be a complementing sound. But what Kyle brought to the table was a few different approaches that we could instantly say, like, yeah, this is clashing, it's not good, which is really helpful, believe it or not. But he also brought a ton of great fill ideas, a ton of different beat ideas that actually gave us some ideas for certain sections of songs. And then he actually fired back like a drummer's version of the template I gave him. Just more locked in and more intricate hits. The way that he's approaching his fills were performed and executed by a drummer, not a guitar player. You understand what I mean? So there was a big difference there. And again, Kyle, you're the man, and I thank you for all your help because you took the drums to a whole different level. Now, at this point, I was pretty satisfied with the drums, but there was still some parts where I felt it needed more help. And this is one reason why I'm going to Dustin, because Dustin has so much experience with every single instrument, but also with full band mixes that I do not have. But I got the crazy idea in my head to call up my buddy Travis Orban. And I said, hey, Travis, I've wanted to work with you for a while on some tracks, preferably metal, but this is what I'm working on right now. You guys know from my interview with Travis, and if you don't know, you should look up Travis Orban. Travis is really known for being a metal drummer. This guy writes some killer parts, and he's a machine. And I knew that if I hit him up, he would not only help take the drums that I had and clean up all the files, but he would add his own Travis Orban flair to it, and also kind of just go in with his microscope and help. And that's what we did. So Travis Orban is the drummer on these songs. Essentially, the drums took a while to kind of come up with an idea, but we gave it to Travis, and what he's firing back is what we are using on these final songs. So right off the bat, there's like a guest drummer on all this, which is super exciting. And I hope that gets you guys excited too, because Travis is a great drummer. And, a great drummer doesn't have to be Neil Peart, doesn't have to have 50,000 toms and, going crazy all the time. And that's what I like that Travis brought to the table. He was the backbone when I needed him to be the backbone. He shined when he had abilities to shine, and he really brought continuity to some of these parts. He brought everything that he always brings to the table to these songs, and I really think that his contributions, on top of the contributions that Kyle did, they really help shape these songs in a very fun way. I think that he leans into the rhythm and the grooviness of Tip Your Bartender and gives it just enough of a backbone that it lets everything just sit and chill, and it just sounds cool. With the song Tell Me Something Great, he's got a little bit more of a jam feel, but for the feel of the song, it is exactly what I'm looking for. I don't want to say that it reminds me of like a Jason Mraz, The Remedy or Waiting on My Rocket or whatever that song is, Curbside Prophet, I think it's the name. But it does kind of have that like acoustic popish sort of feel to it. And it does have that backbone with the drums implemented in there that really gives it a lot of body. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, I think that the song that he shines the most in is Games Up, because I decided with that one that there's going to be some intricacy that I wanted to leave in there rather than be a little bit more cookie cutter. And he played into those things a lot. And I think he shines the best on there. And I think the relationship with the instruments to the drums in that one really, really fit well. I think it gives it a nice feel, a nice drive. I could go on about Travis's contributions for a long time, but all I can say is I'm extremely blessed to say that his name is associated with this. I'm extremely blessed that he even wanted to work on it. And I'm just floored with how these ideas have just turned into something just great. And I am beyond thrilled. Almost everything else on the album is me. Now, obviously, the drum idea genesis is for me too, but I let that go. I wanted to follow that having fun and the full band idea and trying to bring in someone else's ideas as well too, and not just be the conductor. With piano, I programmed all that. Guitar and vocals, I'm taking care of all of that. The one pending thing right now is the lead guitar, is the electric guitar, I should say, not really leads. And I have some parts written, but that kind of ear candy and additional instrumentation is really where I'm relying on Dustin and the time that we spend at the studio to just kind of fill out the songs. And that's going to be a really fun one because the electric guitar is a fun instrument, It's going to be a lot of fun to just dive into that. And recently I've been slowly diving into it, but I'm seeing my skill set with the electric guitar in the way that I want to use it as well. So again, this is where Dustin will really come into play. And yeah, that's about as far as the guitar goes. But, lastly, the bass. And I wanted to leave this for last because at the end of the day, the bass that's going to make it onto the CD is all the bass lines that I've written. And I think it's important to mention that alongside with asking my buddy Kyle and Travis for help, I asked a friend of mine named Casey. If you guys have been following the channel, he goes by Sword and Cup on SoundCloud. I asked him to tackle the bass, and he whipped together a really solid idea for one of the songs, maybe all three of the songs. I have to go back and remember. I think it was just one of the songs, but he wrote a really solid idea for one of them. Casey is an extremely talented multi-instrumentalist, but through trials and tribulations, I guess you could say, he's been thrown into playing the bass probably more than any other instrument, which I think even he would say he loves bass, but I don't think that's his number one instrument of choice. But I know that he has a lot of experience with bass, and I wanted to try to pull him in on it. And he wrote a very good idea for the bass line for Games Up. And if that's not correct, Casey, don't kill me. I don't have my notes in front of me. The idea was cool. It was definitely more of like a walking bass line. It fit the song, but I think the ultimate problem that it's not even a problem. I think it's just a subjective thing. The direction that I wanted to go with it is a little bit more of like an acoustic pop feel. And I wanted the bass to be a little bit more lively and a little bit more, let's say, like early John Mayer bass player kind of thing. A little bit more, I don't want to say like funk, but a little bit more busy. And the ideas that Casey brought to the table, I thought were great, but ultimately I don't think they were the right ones for the song, which stink because we were not able to find a way to keep working on it. And we just stopped after that one for a number of different reasons. And sadly, I actually haven't talked to Casey much since that happened, which stinks because I would have liked to bring him on board and continuously worked on that. And if he's listening to this, maybe in the future we'll be able to work on another track. I think that would be really cool, actually. because he's one heck of a talented dude, and he definitely brings a lot to the table. There's no doubt about that. And it's worth noting that despite anything that has happened with me and him personally, or despite his contributions making it to the final product or not, the work that he put in was a lot of work, and it sounded great. And it actually, I can't say enough how sometimes getting an idea or working on an idea that's not the final idea is sometimes more valuable than finding the idea. Like it feels good to get the right idea. And when you're in the right direction that you need to go, there's almost nothing better than that. I get that. But when you are juggling with an idea or you're unsure of where it should go, but you hear an idea where you're like, okay, this is great. This is a good idea, but this doesn't do it for me. There's actually something really good for that, because you flush out those ideas and you know that direction you're not going. So when you go back to write, it influences you in a lot of ways. And I really wanted to do the bass on this album, and I toyed with possibly bringing my buddy Frank on. And originally I wanted my buddy Casey to work on it, but in the back of my head, I knew if Casey wouldn't work out, I just wanted to do the challenge because I love bass guitar. I think it's great, but I'm not a bass player, But because this is absolutely worth saying, Casey's contributions and assistance that he was bringing when I was trying to write some of these songs significantly helped me wrap my head around the good, the bad, the indifferent, and it gave me a lot of food to think about. And unfortunately, I haven't had the balls or the opportunity to be able to discuss this with him in detail like this. And it's important. And he should know all of this, as well as I think you guys should know this too, because the bass has some interesting choices to it that I made. Not unconventional, but different choices. And I don't think I would have been able to come up with some of those parts if it wasn't for Casey's help. And I just wanted to put it on record that I'm very grateful for his help, and I can't express that enough. And if he does hear this, I hope he understands that those words are very, very true. So let's recap a little bit. So the drums, though I've had some help with it, the final drums are being done by Travis. The bass as well, I've had some help with that as too, but the final bass tracks are going to be me. The piano tracks right now are all tabbed out by me, but I have a feeling that me and Dustin are going to sit down and work that out a bit. The lyrics are pretty locked in, but I'm open to interpretation. And so I'll be interested to see what me and Dustin come up with there. I truly believe that the chord structure of the rhythm guitar is perfect. That all falls on me if it's not. I feel that the rhythm guitar parts are great. I don't think that they need any alterations. I think they lay down a great foundation for the rest of the instruments to really shine and to have the available space to really do what they need to do in the song to bring in some different flavors and some different colors, if you will. As I mentioned previously, this batch of music is just going to be 3 songs. It's going to be 2 songs with vocals and 1 instrumental song, but all 3 songs are going to be full band songs, professionally recorded, mixed, mastered at Dustin Bennett's studio in Lake Forest, Illinois. So even though this is going to be less songs than the previous 2 releases, Friend and The Jig Is Up, I think that you guys are going to enjoy this one, dare I say, even more than the first 2 CDs. I'm not only working on this merchandising pack to go with these songs to kind of make it just an ultimate package for you guys, but even though that there's less songs, I think the time that I've put into them mentally, the time that I've put into them as far as lyrical content and where that comes from, the time that I'm putting in to explore all ideas with other instruments, the time that I'm putting in taking it to a studio that's going to be recorded under conditions that every other thing I've put out on the internet has not been under. I really think that this one, even though it's going to be less songs, is going to pack more of a punch than some of the rest of the stuff that I've done before. And though I'm still working off the sickness of the booster shot, I cannot say enough how damn exciting that is. I can't tell you guys what I'm working on with this merchandising stuff, but if you've been listening to the podcast, you know I'm working on, well, let's say a box. And this box will include all kinds of fun stuff in it, including these songs in some capacity, whether that's on a CD, a download card, a USB drive. I'm still not sure. So again, let me know how you're consuming music these days in the comments below. It'll really help me decide how I'm going to pull the plug on that one. But hopefully you guys can put together what I'm about to say before I even say it. You know, even though this is less songs, it's more. It's bigger mixes. It's more fleshed out ideas. The merch is going to be on a whole new, bigger level. The recording is going to be bigger, but all this means it's all costing more, which is fine. I don't mind investing into these things, and I think you guys are going to be so happy with what you see when it's done. I hope that I can get every single element of this idea done, because once you hear these songs and you see what I'm working on, I think you guys are going to freak out. And hopefully by now you can understand kind of the issue that I'm having. Knowing that this is only going to be a 3-song release, but a full band release, knowing that I'm a small fish in a big sea, knowing that it's hard to get people to support music while I'm going into creating something that's going to take a lot of time, effort, and money. So hopefully you guys can understand how I'm trying to juggle all this and make it all work. Luckily, Dustin is a very helpful and generous and awesome dude, and he is helping in every way that he can. And that goes for everyone across the board. Casey's ability to help with the bass things were more than helpful and great. Travis has been more than generous. He's brought more ideas to the table that I'm just beyond happy with. Same thing goes with Kyle. Same thing goes with everyone that's been attached to this job so far. So everyone's been really helpful, and it seems like things are going well, but it is all predicated on a few different things. It's predicated on being able to raise the needed funds. It's predicated on my body being able to go through the hell that me and Dustin are going to put it through, on top of driving all the way to Chicago. And I do need to drive there because if my body can handle it, I need to work. If I need to get out there and show people the music, it's not only, financially what I need to do, but more importantly, I need to get out of the house. I have been working towards something for a long time and I haven't been able to. And I'm getting these vaccines and booster shots and doing all this so I'm capable of doing the things I want to do, and I want to get out there. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge to make sure that my body can handle performing all the guitar parts, vocals, the bass parts. It's predicated on how much time is spent there working with Dustin on editing. There's just so many moving parts to all this, making sure that the merchandise comes back and looks so good that I'm confident in selling it to you guys. There's so many moving parts here, but I am so driven. And it's funny because this little idea of just, hey, I'm going to make 3 fun songs. I'm just going to have fun with it. And I've been less critical with things. And what's funny is that the less critical I am, the more that these ideas have just flourished. And as I sit back and I listen to the mixes so far, the mixes I've done over here, that is, and I look at the merchandise, even though we need to redo it, and I just kind of get my head wrapped around all this. I'm so excited to show you guys this because I do think this is where this music should be going. I do think it's the natural trajectory that I should be going on and working towards. But I also think that through everything that's going on, it's taken me longer than I've ever wanted to release music. And there's a lot of complications that can go into this. And you guys know I have my fair share of hurdles, but you can see that even though I complain left and right, it's not stopping me. But sitting back and listening to this and looking at these items and thinking about all this, it is awesome. And I never thought that I would be able to take this really small idea that I came up with, like, hey, I'll just work on these 3 songs. It'll be something fun. It's completely snowballed into something completely different. And this is turning into a full-fledged production. Multiple music video shoots ordering props from across the country, across the globe, dealing with studios across the country, hiring people to work on things, outsourcing where I can, controlling what I can, and just kind of taking this idea like a small little snowball and just rolling it down the hill. And it has become something so much bigger and greater and, dare I say, awesome. I really can't wait for you guys just to hear the songs. And I think that even though there are 3 songs, I think that the songs have some longevity to them. I think they're pretty good. I don't say that often because I'm a pretty negative person, and I see the cons in a lot of things, and I voice that a lot. But there's a lot of stuff about these songs that I really enjoy, and I think that they have potential for people outside my audience to even enjoy them too. I think they've got some interesting flair, and it'll give you guys something to think about. It also, just listening to these songs has given me a lot to think about and thinking what'll come after all of this. But that's for a completely different podcast. But that's it, guys. That is the big reveal. The big reveal is that I am working on I have been working on a 3-song release that will be a full band release. I've recruited Travis Orban to do drums on it, and Dustin Bennett to do all the tracking, editing, mixing, mastering on it. As I mentioned, I'm a small fish in a big sea. You know, I'm constantly surprised by the support you guys show, and I'm really shocked that I'm able to do what I can being a small fish. And this is going to be a big one, guys. I really think that you're going to enjoy this. And I've left this to the end of the podcast because it's some of the best news, some of the greatest news that I have to share. But also, you know, I've been working hard on these, working hard on finishing the demos, working hard on all of this. But the real work is about to start, which is why I'm putting an end to the podcast at season 1. Once I release these next few episodes, I need to go MIA because we need to get to work and basically redo all this work in a very professional setting. Oh God, it's going to be so much fun. I'm trying everything that I can to get additional help with filming, basically just as much additional help as I can because my body can't be the performer, the additional producer, the videographer, etc., etc. I can't do all this at once. So I'm trying to find additional help for doing some behind the scenes stuff once I get there. It's going to be a process, but it's going to be a really, really fun process. And next week, we're going to talk with Dustin Bennett about Dustin Bennett and talk about his studio and basically who he is and what he does. But we're also going to talk about this music and there's so many different things that we're going to do with it. Just for example, going through different bass tones to finding the right electric guitar to go with these things, testing out different melody ideas on the spot to sampling drum work, to just the list goes on. And I know that sounds like a whole bunch of nerd talk. I know that sounds really dorky, but that's what I live for right there. I'd love to be working at Dustin's studio again, or to find another studio job like that, to get paid for that to be your job, to be in the shit, to be working on these things, to be in that creative mindset in that world. There's nothing better. I'm definitely one of those geeks. I wish I had more opportunities to do it. And I do a lot of it here, but when it's just myself, it's a struggle sometimes. And when I'm working with somebody like Dustin, it's a pleasure and it's fun. And yeah, it's going to be really great. I am beyond excited. Beyond excited. We're going to talk about all of that and a bunch more next week. And I'm really happy that Dustin made some time. I've been sick all week and Dustin's been making little pockets of time while I've been awake. So there may be a little continuity issue with the next episode, but I think you guys won't care either way because it's a great episode. Dustin goes into detail about his past. He goes into detail about his opinions about the music that we're working on and a bunch more. I think one of the biggest things that I'm excited about with going to Dustin's is the gear. So much fun gear to play with. But it's not even like fun gear to play with. It's gear that I know that will make these songs sound great. The acoustics we're going to use are great. The microphones we're going to use in my voice are great. Will I sound great singing into the microphone? Well, that's a whole other topic. The electric guitar choices over there are great. Bass options up the wazoo. Drum options, that's still actually being worked on right now. Since the drums are going to be programmed, we actually have a bunch of choices in front of us. So it's going to be so much fun to do tone matching and finding what snare is going to really hit the best. And what's so great about Dustin's Place is that there's not only a bunch of digital options at our disposal, but there's a number of real life drum kits there that we can tap into as well. And the drum selection at Dustin's is crazy. And I know this because when I was working there, the drum department was like the last thing I was doing. And we were working down there every day, working on drum tracking. So we were drum tuning and, buying different stuff for drums all the time, different heads, different types of combinations. And just through the course of me working there, Dustin started to collect snare drums and started to collect all different types of drum kits, including, I want to say, 3 different sonar kits. So it's going to be remarkable. With the Jig Is Up, I didn't have many options. We had to record it the way we had to record it. We had to use the only microphone at our disposal, and the only guitar I had to use was the Ibanez. There was no other choice in the matter. And you can hear it in the recording. And does it suffice? Sure. But those songs could have been better sonically. The guitar could have had a lot more body to it. And the same thing goes with Friend. I was able to work with a different facility that had a little bit better microphones and a little bit more tools at our disposal. Plus, I had a better guitar at that time. But that still wasn't ideal for many ways. And it sounds like a crazy sales pitch, but I assure you it's not. Working at Dustin's, he has really created a facility that I know I can speak about it firsthand, but also thirdhand. This facility is such a great place to create. He's not only built a facility that invites creativity and welcomes it and harnesses it, but he's stocked that place full of some of the most interesting and beautiful pieces of gear that you can get your hands on. And as much as I'm a gear guy, as much as I like a lot of those stuff and I'd like to own it here at the home, some of that stuff I'll never be able to own. And to know that essentially I'll be renting some of this stuff, I'm okay with that. I'm more than okay with that. And I think renting it for these songs is the right move. It would be a shame to work on a full band mix with my first Ibanez. It wouldn't be good. So to have multiple different acoustics at my disposal, to just have a lot of different toys to be able to really explore different tonal options is very exciting. And it really feeds into the just whole creativity and wanting to have fun aspect. Just sitting there and wanting to create, spending the time to try to make the best song instead of just, hurry up, we got to go. I think it goes without saying, but, going to Dustin's Place isn't just about gear. And when you look at his studio, you know what? Take a look at the screen right now. And I'm going to show you guys a couple pictures of his studio. When you look at his studio, you think a studio like that speaks for itself. It gives quite the impression of what kind of facility I'm walking into. But I'm having a hard time putting it into words how awesome Dustin is and why I'm bringing the music to him. And I hope that next episode, when I sit and speak with him, we can kind of show you guys why I enjoy his madness. And there's definitely a method to his madness. I've seen it happen firsthand. I've seen it happen thirdhand. And the results that he gives when he's allowed to have the time that he needs, the examples are outrageous, guys. They're outrageous. So I'm just beyond excited. I cannot express that enough. This is going to be a very, very fun adventure. And again, some of you might be thinking, because you've listened to the podcast in full, Justin, you've already recorded these songs. I've tabbed out all the drums over here. The piano's all gridded out. The bass lines are recorded. The guitar parts are comped and edited. The vocals are recorded. The thing is that I don't have the best QA over here because of my back. That's a big thing, guys. I'm listening to some of these guitar tracks back, and there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of mistakes in the recording process because I'm overlooking them, because I'm just quote unquote demoing these songs. That attention to detail, the stuff that I'm just kind of glazing over here, while I'm recording vocals, sometimes you can hear people talking in the background because they're in another room. But I don't care. I'm not showing anyone these songs, And I guess technically I could record this stuff here at home and try to fancy it up as much as I possibly could. And I could just call it a day. But I think you guys deserve something better than that. I think the music deserves something better than that. And I want to bring it to somebody who can give it the care and love and attention that it needs. And it's not that I'm not capable of doing that, but there are a lot of moving parts to the full band songs. And there's a lot of moving parts to being able to record properly that I need to go to a person that I don't second guess his genius because he's already methodically thought out all of this. I find that me and Dustin get along because we agree on more things than I say. I don't say it out loud too much, but there's a lot of times I'm searching for the right words and he says exactly what I'm thinking. When I'm going through a checklist, he's already gone through those checklists and will bring more to the table. It's hard to put it into words, but the value that Dustin has is great. And, working on these songs is going to be a lot of fun, and showing you guys is going to be insane. But part of me, because of how I got into music and because of what I cherish the most, being able to work with these other musicians, working with ideas with Casey, even talking about the genesis of the music with Casey in detail, talking with Kyle, talking with Travis, pulling Dustin in to go over every aspect. This is so much fun, and it's something that I miss, and it's something that I cherish so much because that's where a lot of magic happens. And working hand in hand with someone like that is exciting, and it brings so much to the table. And I know there's some people out there that might not want to bring in an extra pair of ears or may want to control everything themselves. And I've been in that position. But as I mentioned, with this approach, I took a hands-off approach. And it's really welcoming, and it's just a really great thing to have some people that I am inspired by and people that I feel very fondly of, be able to bring them in and collectively work on something. It's really borderline indescribable. It's borderline indescribable. I can't say that word, indescribable, but it's a really great thing. It's really, really great. And I want to keep that feeling at the center. I want to keep that openness at the center, be open to ideas. I've taken these songs as far as they can, but when I hear them, even when Dustin hears them, even when a couple other trusted people who have heard the songs hear them, they can hear that it's missing something. I don't know what that is. But I know that me and Dustin together are going to figure that out. And that in itself is so exciting. Creating with someone else, creating with your friend, writing something with your friend, molding with ideas, taking their ideas and pulling that in with your idea. Like I said, these are some of the things that got me into playing music with other people. Even though for years I've been doing this by myself, it's always great to work with other people who are really good at their job, but to have them come into my little world and to help with this is not only cathartic for myself, but it's just gonna help. It's already helped so much. That's it, guys. That is the reveal episode. I am working on a 3-song release with Travis Orban doing the drum work and Dustin Bennett, the producer, working on it. And that's what I'll be doing once this podcast is done, and hopefully getting it out to you guys as soon as humanly possible. Again, I am fundraising for it, so check out the links in the description below. Tons of t-shirts for sale, tons of stuff going on, so help where you can. And I appreciate your support. I appreciate you guys listening to the podcast so far. I hope that this is exciting for you to hear just as much as it's exciting for me to say. And I'm excited to put it out in the world. And yeah, I think that's going to be it. I think we should just end it there this week. As I said, this week has been a little bit crazy due to sickness and whatnot. So it's been a little slow, but I did want to check in. And I did want to do the reveal episode before we do the Dustin Bennett podcast. I think I'm at a loss of words right now because I'm just smiling. Because, I don't know, it's just hitting me more and more every day that this little idea is just becoming something huge. And just the thought of telling you guys about it, I can't wait to hear your response. Oh, but then when you hear it, oh man, you guys are in for a treat. Seriously. So please stay tuned. As always, I'm working as hard as I can over here, and I never leave you guys disappointed. So stick with me. Thank you very much for listening. Make sure to send those questions for the last solo podcast that I'll do. The email again is thetellmesomethingGreatPodcast@gmail.com. If you guys haven't checked out the past episodes, please do me a favor and go back and check out some of them. If you like it, please like the video. If you haven't subscribed yet and you're just listening, please, by all means, subscribe. It definitely helps. I'm on a long journey to try to make 1,000 subs right now so I can benefit off the $1.48 a month I'll make off of advertising, Cool Ranch Doritos. Regardless, thank you guys as always for listening. I hope that you guys enjoyed the reveal episode and you're as excited as I am. So tune in next week for the Dustin Bennett interview. And then the next week, we're going to have the last solo interview before the end of season 1. I've had a lot of fun doing this, and I've had a lot of fun just building up to this reveal. And let me tell you, there's going to be a lot more reveals too. So stay tuned. As always, guys, go out and make it great. I hope that my great news this week will inspire you to go out and make something great for yourself. I'm feeling pretty great today, so I'm going to ride that as much as I possibly can. I hope you guys go out and make the day as great as you can, make the week as great as you can, and then tell me something great, because I'd love to hear it. Thanks as always for listening, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, 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 bye.
That's great.